Medyo late tayo ng ilang minutes to start our live stream. I apologize for that. I'm having issues lang earlier with connecting with my live stream schedule. Hirap kasi na gumawa ako ng panibagong live stream schedule because the one that I actually have posted on social media is the link that I should be using. So anyway, good evening everyone, wherever you are in the world. Magandang gabi sa inyong lahat. I hope na you're in good spirits while we do our live stream this evening. I hope na maganda yung mood ng lahat ngayon sa gabing ito because we are going to be talking about very how do you say, sensitive but also very controversial na topic. Ayan. Magandang gabi, lovely Nimrod. Hello, good evening sa iyo. I think Roscoe is also here. Good evening. Happy Sunday as well. Well, I'm glad that you're excited for today's topic, Roscoe, because we are going to be tackling about the franchises and what's going on. There are a lot of things that have been going on in terms of the rigodon de perpetua of these, national franchises. It's like for the past 3-4 years, there have been some major changes. And we're expecting that these changes will not stop. These changes will continue on for the next 5 years. Pwedeng mangyari na the franchises that some national pageants are currently holding may not be the same franchises that they're going to be, handling in the next 3-4 years. So, magandang pag-usapan yung topic na to because there's a lot of things to discuss. Ayan. Let's see who else is here. Daniel P. Yuson, the first to come to come here and arrive. Hello, good evening. Good evening, Sir Jason. Sabi niya, happy Sunday, nakatutok na ako, smiley face. Oriental Josa Sahara is here. Happy Sunday from Dublin. That's in Ireland. Mark Gonzalez is also here. Good PM, Sir Jason. Present po. Hello to fellow scripters. Ayan. For those na nandito ngayon, can you please, like our live stream para magkaroon tayo ng mas maraming people na mag-join in dito sa live stream na ito because there's several points that I want to discuss with regards to what's happening in terms of the franchises and the licenses of each national pageant. So please do leave a thumbs up. Worst Night, the Worst Night Double X is here. Good evening. Alexa, hello Alexa. Nakikibalita si Alexa ngayon. Hello, good evening Alexa. Have a sit back, relax and sip some tea or coffee. Medyo tayo ngayon. Medyo marami tayong pag-uusapan ngayon with regards to the franchises. Jester PL, good evening Sir Jason from Baguio. Good evening din. Sana malamig ngayon diyan. Rodvin Fiel, sabi niya present daw siya ngayon and fan says may rumors daw po ba nababalik sa BBP ang MUPH franchise? Pag-uusapan natin yan because I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. But maybe, it depends. Pag-uusapan natin, what are the reasons why I think that way a little bit later. John Marie Red, sabi niya, interesting topic. Yes, very interesting ang topic natin today because what we will be talking about is the way that the franchise has been moving around. And this is not just franchise and licensees ng mga national pageants here in the Philippines but also abroad. There has been some rigodon in the franchises, especially in the Miss Universe franchises na nangyayari ngayon na hanggang ngayon parang lahat tayo na-whiplash with all of these changes. And I think it's high time that we discuss what are the possible things that might happen in the next several years because when we talk about franchises, importante na tinitignan natin ito from the perspective of a business person. Nowadays, pageants are very much of a business, and this is also the reason why last week what we discussed in our live stream session was the business models, specifically for the Miss Universe business models because those are the things that seems to be very disruptive at this moment. There's a lot of disruption in terms of the way things are handled, the way things are being run, and that is something that we need to realize at this point, that those are all based on business arrangement, and hindi siya hindi siya dapat ikabigla na at this point. It shouldn't be something that surprises us or shocks us at this point in time, because there's a lot of things that happen behind the scenes that we do not necessarily get so much information from. And all of these things that are business dealings behind the scenes, they ultimately affect the way that we consume pageants, the way we consume pageant content. Because a lot of these things is interesting, at the same time, a little bit overwhelming, to the point that it becomes tiring for pageant fans, na maya't maya meron tayong nababalitaan about change in franchise ownership. And yung latest na nangyari with Vietnam, it shouldn't be something that should shock us, because we had a sort of not premonition, but feeling, or a gut, a gut instinct that says na probably the reason why a lot of these, these countries, ASEAN countries, have mga issues, or rather have these immediate changes, no, in ownership, and in terms of licensee. It's because nakita na natin na binigyan na tayo ng taste, or ng binigyan na tayo ng parang hints, when a lot of these franchise owners in Asia, yung mga manok nila hindi pumasok sa semis ng Miss Universe. A lot of them that we were expecting were Thailand, the Philippines, Vietnam, Indonesia, hindi pumasok sa semis ng Miss Universe. And we are looking at maybe the reason for that, it's because of the shake-up that's happening right now. Now, before we start with all of these topics, I think we should first discuss yung pinaka mainit na tinatanong madalas sa akin on social media, which is the Binibining Pilipinas franchise. For the longest time, the Binibining Pilipinas franchise or rather, the Binibining Pilipinas pageant has been the most prestigious national title that anyone can have, because of the Miss Universe title that they used to handle. And for almost siguro mga mahigit 50 na taon, for I think roughly around 57 or 55 year for the last 55 years, the franchise was under Binibining Pilipinas. And now that the Miss Universe Philippines is under a different organization, there's a lot of speculation on the longevity of the Binibining Pilipinas pageant in itself. And with all of these changes in their titles, ano yung mangyayari, what's going on, what's happening, and what is the immediate future that we see for the Binibining Pilipinas pageant. Now, we all know that apat na titles yung nalagas sa Binibining Pilipinas in the past 5 years, or rather 4 years. We have Miss Universe Philippines gone in 2020. We have Miss Intercon and Miss Grand just this year. And then we have last 2021, I believe, we have Miss Supranational. So with all of these changes, people are starting to worry about what does it mean with regards to the longevity of the pageant. There is, I think we need to look at it from an outside perspective, an outside looking into not just the organization, but the pageant itself. Kasi from my perspective, I believe that the Binibining Pilipinas, because of its legacy, its history, it can withstand, losing these, prestigious na mga titles, especially the MUPH. And the reason for that is because it has long since been a institution in terms of pageantry, being the longest running na national title in existence. In fact, I think that the Binibining Pilipinas is reliant on that goodwill, on that brand equity that it has established for itself for the past 59 years. In order for it to propel itself towards the future. Now, I'm not saying that easy peasy they can survive simply on brand recognition, their legacy and their history alone. There needs to be something that keeps people interested with the pageant. And I think that with four titles and on four crowns lost to them in the past 3 years, medyo kinakailangan magising-gising yung mga nasa pamunuan ng Binibining Pilipinas and look at it from a different perspective. What are the things that they're not doing in terms of making the franchisees or their international franchises happy with the way that they think that they run things in Binibining Pilipinas and learn from those lessons. There is a lesson that needs to be learned from all of these pageants na umaalis sa Binibining Pilipinas and really look at it from the perspective of where can I address the situation and make it better for the pageant itself. Now, because Binibining Pilipinas has long-standing na history, I think kaya nilang indahin yung pag-alis ng mga pageant franchise na ito. But it does not bode well on the overall image of the pageant na madalas silang nawawalan ng mga pageant franchise. Yes, I think it is, it makes sense that they know their value, they know their worth as a pageant, but they also need to make sure that they keep things interesting and they keep their partnerships, afloat and establish real relationships with these international franchises. I think yun yung area that they need to really work on, because if the international franchises are happy with the way that they run things, and marami naman yung nagsasabi na mga rumors are still abound that there are some pageant franchises na willing na bumalik sa Binibining Pilipinas, then there must be doing something right, but at the same time there are areas that they might be needing to improve on. And I think that is where understanding that they probably need a franchise reliant a franchise liaison officer that needs to regularly communicate with these international franchises, and sila din yung or that person should be the one that travels with the candidates when they compete internationally. That way merong representative organization sa international competition, not just the candidate competing itself. Of course, hindi madaling gawin yan ng basta-basta, because you need money to fund the salary and the activities of the franchise liaison officer, in order for that person to establish a working communication relationship between the international franchises and the local organization. That way, hindi madali yung basta-basta na lang umalis yung mga pageant franchises na ito, because anything that the international competition wants to communicate with the Binibining Pilipinas organization, the franchise liaison officer would be the one to communicate and act as a bridge between those two organizations, because you have to understand, Binibining Pilipinas may may because they know their worth, because they know yung kanilang history, meron din silang pride on the pageant itself. But we have to also be mindful that kinakailangan working yung relationship nung international at ang local organization in order for them to have in sync na step on how they are going to move forwards as partners at this point in time. Kasi ngayon, isa sa mga pinaka-importanteng tinitignan ng mga international franchises, based on what we've been seeing so far with the acquisition of Kun An of Miss Universe organization, is that they want a long-standing business partnership, and that is why they were very, very adamant, and they had very strong words on their internal memo with regards to the bidding. Kinakailangan merong 5-year plan, may budget, may long-term na goals yung local organization for the international pageant. And I think that also works with Binibining Pilipinas. They have to have like a roadmap on how they're going to increase, the visibility or the prestige, or even, the profile of these international pageants in the in the Binibining Pilipinas competition. Alam naman natin na kapag Binibining Pilipinas ang humawak ng mga international na mga franchises na to, umaangat yung kanilang what do you say, yung kanilang profile. There's a lot of international competitions that kapag nadikit sa Binibining Pilipinas yung mga pangalan nila, these international competitions suddenly zooms up when it comes to their visibility on social media, with regards to followership on social media, their popularity is suddenly increased because of their association with Binibining Pilipinas. And I think that is a very core strength of Binibining Pilipinas that they can bring into the table. However, hindi nagtatapos doon yung relationship nila. They need to be able to nurture these relationships with these international organizations na hindi lang papel yung communications. They need to have like face-to-face representatives that would align and that would communicate in the international arena doon sa mga competitions na to. We need to have, I believe that we need to have like a liaison officer, a franchise liaison officer that would be sent together with the Miss Philippines rep to these international competitions, so that namamanmanan niya kung paano ginagawa yung pageant, how it is managed, how the pageant is being fair to every candidate, not just to our own candidate, so that when the liaison officer comes back, he or she gives feedback to the organization on the good, the bad, the points that needs to be improved on the international organizations. That way, nagkakaroon ng tao who will observe these international competitions up close and in person, and get feedback on what these organizations are looking for in a winner, and communicate that back locally. That way, mas nagkakaroon ng presence ang Binibining Pilipinas organization at the international level. So it needs to be, something that on the personal side, magkaroon ng representative, because that will allow us to have a longer, stronger relationships with these international franchises. On the other hand, there is also this perspective that because we no longer have all of these big pageants like before, when Binibining Pilipinas used to handle Miss World, Miss International, and Miss Universe. I think merong what do you call this? Merong my God, I'm suddenly lost for words. I think there is merit to what fans are asking for in terms of making the Binibining Pilipinas a singular title for their competition. So ibig sabihin, they will still probably make a top 5 winners, and instead of just awarding them Binibining Pilipinas, International, Globe, and etc., gawin na lang nilang Binibining Pilipinas blanket yung yung main title. And then the Binibining Pilipinas winner would get to compete in whatever international competition that she chose to. So kung ang tingin nila top title is Miss International, then that girl would essentially go to Miss International, and then award na lang the runners up for their respective, what do you call this, respective international delegation. And instead of Binibining Pilipinas first runner up ang ilagay sa sash nila, why not do the same thing that we did in the past? Because if I remember correctly, in the 1960s, you have some titles like Binibining Pilipinas Luzon, Binibining Pilipinas Visayas, Binibining Pilipinas Mindanao, that they can leverage in terms of yung branding ng pageant. And I think that would be much more mas magandang road, or mas magandang plan yon, instead of having Binibining Pilipinas Globe, Binibining Pilipinas Grand International, or Binibining Pilipinas Intercontinental. Because ultimately, I think what we need to do is to ultimately increase the brand na recognition ng Binibining Pilipinas, and make that something that is akin to, let's say, Miss South Africa or Miss France. That whoever wins, Miss France, they can choose, that person, that winner can choose whether to go in Miss World or Miss Universe. Same thing with Miss South Africa, where the winner gets to choose between supranational, universe, and world kung saan siya sasabak. And I think maganda siyang plan overall, that we have titles like Binibining Pilipinas, Binibining Pilipinas Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, because it will allow more prestige to the main title itself. And then ultimately, these special titles, this Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao na titles, they can be sent which competition, which international competition they are most likely a better fit for. Mas maganda siguro na gawin natin yon, in order for them to be able to sit down with the winners after their coronation, of course, and then discuss with these winners kung ano sa tingin nila yung competition that they are more likely, the best fit for. And having this also allows, the Binibining Pilipinas lesser time to do deliberations come finals night, come coronation night. Magandang dynamic na magkaroon ng ganitong change, especially that by next year, the Binibining Pilipinas pageant will be on their 60th year. And I think having that kind of, shake up on the way that Binibining Pilipinas does their pageant, their national pageant, allows, improvement, allows an element of progress. Because nowadays, with all of these international competitions na nagsusulputan, merong Miss Global, merong Miss Eco, Miss Reina Hispano-Americana, kinakailangan na maging adaptive din ang Binibining Pilipinas with all of these changes, because I don't think that for the next 5 years magiging loyal itong mga international competition na ito sa iisang organization dito sa Pilipinas. I think the floodgate of bidding war for the international competition has been opened with what happened in Miss Universe, and I think everyone is going to be following suit doon sa kung saang national org sila mas kikita, doon sila pupunta. And I think everybody is going towards that direction in the next 2, 3, 5 years. And yung konsepto ng loyalty sa iisang organization unfortunately, I don't see that happening again anytime soon. Yung common na comment ng mga pageant fans na pera-pera na lang, that's going to, unfortunately and sadly, that is something that is happening now. And we need to be, we need to be bracing for that change. And I think Binibining Pilipinas entering their 60th year should be, should be like focusing on that direction, to build their brand, and then um, assign na lang yung mga minor titles with the runners up that will be rebranded as Binibining Pilipinas, Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. So let me know your thoughts on that, because I think maganda siyang pag-isipan. And I want to know kung ano yung naiisip ninyo, ano yung kuro-kuro niyo on that regards, because I think that this is a good opportunity for Binibining Pilipinas to rebrand itself. Now, please do comment down in the comment section below, on the chat section below, because I will be reading some of them a little bit later on. And also, I also want to talk about the possible titles for Binibining Pilipinas this year, because a lot of you kept on asking the same questions na ano na yung mga bagong titles that Binibining Pilipinas would be acquiring. At this point in time, I have been very repetitive in saying that a lot of these things are very tight-lipped ang Binibining Pilipinas on this. But I have heard that rumors abound since last year na isa sa mga pinag-iisipan ng mga international competitions that they are looking at is Miss Asia Pacific International and Miss Elite. So I am not sure if where they are in terms of negotiations, in terms of acquisition, but I do think that if magkataon nga na ganun ang mangyayari, that they are thinking of acquiring more of these pageant titles, and that during the official numbering of the candidates, meron na silang mga negotiations na face on some new titles, then I hope that sana magpatuloy ito. I hope that it pushes through, because we need we need more titles, because I am seeing great potential with the 2023 batch of candidates. There's a lot of girls in this year's batch na if you look closer to, they do have potential, and I think kinakailangan lang na ma-upgrade yung the way that they are styled, the way that they compete, because a lot of them actually are very raw in my opinion. Although I think that with the proper training and with the proper makeup, styling, fashion wardrobe, they can be great international competitors later on. I think maganda yung batch overall ng Binibining Pilipinas this year, as compared to to other batches na may national competition na nangyayari din ngayon. Now, let's now check up on the comment section before we move on to the next topic that I want to be discussing. Okay? Oriental Josa, ayan. I just mentioned that there are rumors na they are looking at it. So, hintayin natin kapag mas deep na tayo doon sa sa pageant schedule, para malaman natin kung nakuha nila yung franchise, because ang problema kasi sa Miss Asia Pacific International is that it has been a bit inconsistent in the way that they do their national pageant. Ang problema kasi doon is that yung international competition nila here today, next year, wala kang mabalitaan. So in order for a title to be acquired by Binibining Pilipinas, I think importante yung yung consistency of the pageant being held. Now, with regards naman doon sa mga ibang mga nagtatanong with regards to other franchises, how come Binibining Pilipinas does not take a gamble with, let's say, Reina Hispano-Americana or Miss United Continents? We have to understand these international pageants currently have relationships or currently is with other local pageant and local organizations. Si Jesslyn Santos is currently the national director for Miss United Continents here in the Philippines. Miss Reina Hispano-Americana is still with Miss World Philippines. So hindi basta-basta na magkikipag-bid ang Binibining Pilipinas to acquire these titles if there are still existing contracts in place. So we need to be very mindful of that. Hindi porke nakikita natin na perfect fit itong pageant na ito for Binibining Pilipinas, ibig sabihin ganun na lang kadali yung pag-acquire ng mga franchises na ito. Okay? Next thing, we have Romano Empire with regards naman, he's asking naman with regards to reliable rumors about possible new titles. So, yun na nga Romano, nabanggit ko na yung mga titles na naririnig ko, and I am not, I am managing my expectations with regards to new titles with Binibining Pilipinas, because for the longest time they've been very tight-lipped with regards to this. So what we hear are only rumors at this point in time. Josh Moore, sabi niya is, I thought MUP is a standalone pageant. Why suddenly they are acquiring new franchises? Josh, from what I've heard, is that with the bidding na nangyayari sa Miss Universe, local pageants, local organizations would now have to be very upfront with the new owner, Kun An, with regards to the franchises that they have acquired or are currently acquiring. And this changes things, because if in case na makita ng organization na mas may favoritism on a certain pageant, for example, then they don't, they won't extend you the same courtesy. Kasi nakita naman natin, di ba, nung 2021 na yung second runner-up ng South Africa ang pinadala nila sa Miss Universe. At nakita natin na mga si Miss South Africa on the finals, despite being very gorgeous, very good communicator. So medyo tayo doon, medyo kinakailangan natin pagtuunan ng pansin na having other franchises and making those franchises something as like equal to your main title, parang ang hirap nga niyang i-manage. Although I would want to stress that ang main title pa naman siguro is going to be still the Miss Universe Philippines title. There. Daniel P. Yuson Jr. Says, I remember back in the days na sa BPCI ang 3 major crowns, Universe, World, and International, and sabi niya nakakamiss din yung eksenang tatlong binibini na lang nakatayo sa center stage, then isa-isang tatawagin na yung names nila vis-a-vis their respective crowns. Nakakamiss nga, Daniel, but I think we have to be very open to change kasi nagbabago ang lahat, especially in the past 3 years na parang ang daming shake up in terms of franchise na rotation. We've seen Miss Universe na lumipat, we've seen supranational na nagpa-pageant hopping, yung kanilang organization with different local organizations. Imagine mo in only just a matter of 4 years. Parang tatlo na yung nilipatan nilang international na nilipatan nilang Philippine pageants dito sa Pilipinas. So medyo alarming din na hindi ganun sila ka-consistent doon sa kanilang relationships with the local orgs here in the Philippines. But pag-uusapan natin yan in depth a little bit later when we are gonna discuss yung Miss World Philippines and Mutya ng Pilipinas and MUPH na, mga pageants. Roscoe says, "Hi Jason, do you think the quality candidates join Binibining Pilipinas because it's Binibining Pilipinas and not necessarily what international titles they have under their roster? It seems evident compared to their rival." Roscoe, here's what I honestly think. I think a lot of these girls are using Binibining Pilipinas in order for them to um, expand, or rather in order for them to have more visibility in terms of pageant fans. I'm not saying that this is a bad thing. I think it has its pros and cons. But I think that ultimately, whenever a candidate, a girl, competes at Binibining Pilipinas, mas meron siyang visibility. They get more exposure. The 3-month-long na pageant is a test of patience, and it's a test of grit and will. And you need to have not only the physical goods to win Binibining Pilipinas, but you also have to have the mental fortitude, because I think that Binibining Pilipinas alone is a more grueling national pageant than any other national pageant here in the Philippines, and it is comparable to other international competitions. I think that Binibining Pilipinas, kung ikumpara mo siya sa ibang mga national na competitions or international na competitions ng mga minor pageants, mas mahirap ipanalo yung Binibining Pilipinas than winning, let's say, other minor international pageants. And this is also the reason why kapag meron na tayong nababalitaan ng mga Binibining Pilipinas candidates, whether they make it into the semis or they don't make it into the semis of Binibining Pilipinas, kapag lumalaban sila sa international competition, nananalo sila. In case in point, we have Shane Tormes who became Miss Global. We have Faith Garcia who became Miss Aura International. So isipin mo, candidate pa lang ang level nila sa Binibining Pilipinas, but when you send them to international competitions, they easily won yung mga pageants na ito na parang minamanilang nila. And I think that is a testament to the Binibining Pilipinas brand, that anybody who competes at Binibining Pilipinas, tumataas yung kanilang value, tumataas yung kanilang how would I say it? Tumataas yung kanilang profile. And suddenly, people are thinking of them as possible, girls for bigger international competitions. And I think, that alone has its pros and cons. But ultimately, Binibining Pilipinas, you join Binibining Pilipinas because it is an institution, because there is something about the BPCI brand that really makes pageant girls more famous, more respected, more known than its other counterparts, or rather its other rivals. And I think it is ultimately a testament to the Binibining Pilipinas name alone. Okay, Michael Ferrando, okay, babasahin ko na lang yung comment mo because masyado kang critical sa Binibining Pilipinas. Sabi niya, Sir Jason, BBP and MUPH is shown in YouTube. It's not about the transmitter, it's about the cameras. Yun, MUPH have HD cameras and BBP have 48p cameras. Pakisabi naman sa Binibining Pilipinas na palitan na cameras nila sa HD. Again, it is nakakapagod tong si Michael Ferrando kasi paulit-ulit na lang parang sirang plaka. It is the production teams na who handles this na kinakailangan mag-upgrade And it's not just the pageant itself, okay? So, hindi lang naman hindi lang naman Binibining Pilipinas yung may problema diyan. All national pageants may issue when it comes to translating how HD their cameras are on what do you call this on what do you call this on YouTube. So there. Nakakapagod ka na rin, Michael. Ke post, ke video, ke live stream, yan na lang yung sinasabi mo. I think what you need to know, what you need to do is dumiretso ka na sa Binibining Pilipinas to really voice out your concerns, because having it go through a third person would only dilute your message. So much better siguro kung sa mismong Binibining Pilipinas ka magreklamo. Frozen Spirit, good PM, Sir Jess. Absent ulit si Sir Mark tonight. Curious lang, meron bang ini-implement na 1-year contract franchisee term ang MUO, lalo na sa mga smaller countries or territories? From what I know, annual ang what do you call this? Annual ang renewal ng Miss Universe organization. However, basing on the verbiage of the memo that was distributed to the national directors, I think that there is, a possibility that if you are able to present them with a long-term plan for the franchise, mas mabibigyan ka ng chance to have long-term deals with them. And I think, this is something that's good, that kasi it will allow, a progression in the relationship, magkaroon ng deeper, deeper relationship between the national and the international competition. And I hope that this be something that other pageant systems, international pageant systems would do in their franchise partnerships here and abroad. Sabi ni The Worst Night XX, agree, mas maganda po ang title would be simply Binibining Pilipinas to at least preserve the Miss Philippines legacy and prestige. Okay, trivia lang for everyone. Back in 1969 and I think 1969, around that period, there are actually 2 titles in Binibining Pilipinas, and one of those titles is Binibining Pilipinas and Miss Philippines. The Miss Philippines title, whoever wins Miss Philippines is sent to Miss International, and the one who wins Binibining Pilipinas is sent to Miss World. I think it was only around the 1970s that we had Binibining Pilipinas International and Binibining Pilipinas Universe as separate titles. Because if I'm not mistaken, around 1967, 68, 69, ganyan, or 68, 69, 70, I think yung Miss Philippines at Binibining Pilipinas, these are titles that the BPCI would award its top 2 winners. So, trivia lang, kasi tingin ko ultimately mas maganda talaga pakinggan yung Binibining Pilipinas, and then each of the runners up are awarded the title, and they can actually expand this Binibining Pilipinas titles into, you have the main Binibining Pilipinas winner, you have Binibining Pilipinas Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao, and perhaps a Binibining Pilipinas Tourism, so that that person can either be someone who works with the Department of Tourism for projects, for example, or Binibining Pilipinas Araneta City as a main title, because mas may visibility yung Binibining Pilipinas Araneta City up until now, because I still see Francesca Taruk all over Araneta, Cubao, and yung mga posters niya still hanggang ngayon ginagamit pa din for a lot of promotions. So perhaps they can expand yung mga subtitles later on, in order for the pageant to have more more titles, and then each subtitles ng Binibining Pilipinas would have international competitions later on to compete in. So there. Josh Moore, parang nag-give up na ang binibining Pilipinas, laban lang. I think that abangan natin yung mga plans nila next year because I've been hearing rumors as early as now on partnerships, on prizes and some other things. So siguro hintayin natin na ma-finalize yon, hintayin natin na magkaroon ng fruition yung ganitong mga partnerships and arrangements because I think ultimately um, paghahandaan nila yung 60th year nila and magiging magiging we call this, magiging exciting ito from the things that I've been hearing. These are still rumors. Hindi ko pwede munang i-divulge sa inyo because malay natin kung hindi kung alin doon sa mga yun ang magkakatotoo at hindi. But I am hoping that whatever they have plans, mag-materialize siya ng maayos for their 60th anniversary. Okay, again from The Worst Night Double X, sabi niya, para if the Binibining Pilipinas winners move on to other pageant, may marketability pa rin ang branding because she had the Miss Philippines title for a year, portfolio boost pa rin. Yes, agree to that. Lemuel235 says, Sir Jason, your thoughts on Binibining Pilipinas and MUPH seemingly doing the same pattern for initially taking drastic cut like top 35 and top 30, then suddenly changing it into a top 40. Sa Binibining Pilipinas, maintindihan ko yon kasi ang dami nilang magagandang mga applicants. Sa MUPH, unfortunately, doon sa mga ibang mga nakikita ko online na mga nag-apply, I don't think that they have international caliber na mga applicants. Napipili lang talaga sa kamay, sa dalawang kamay actually yung may potential, and I think had it not been na may mga repeaters tayo, sorry, had it been we don't have crossovers and repeaters, hindi magiging exciting yung edition this year. Although I think that there are girls na may potential na manalo, may potential na tawag nito, may potential na mag-improve, but I need to take a look at how they are going to progress throughout the competition later on para magkaroon ako ng better assessment of them. Because right now, based on what I've seen so far, I think the stronger girls are still at Binibining Pilipinas. Draye, sabi niya, good evening Sir Jason, smiley face. Daniel P. Yuson says, I actually agree sa nasabi mo Sir Jason, mas magandang gawin na lang nilang Binibining Pilipinas ang main title, then the winner gets to choose which international pageant to join, just like Miss South Africa. Okay, Stephen Monte Carlo says, ito ang pageant vlogger na sensible gumawa ng content, yung ibang vlogger sa BAW. Thank you, Stephen. I hope na I am able to present the topics and the opinions in a very sensible manner. There. Nakakataba ng puso. Thank you. AJ Bai, late na naman ako. Hello Sir Jason at all the viewers. Mahal ko kayo. Ayan. Hello AJ, good evening. Team replay ka na lang. A lot of the things that we've already discussed on Binibining Pilipinas and their franchises, nauna ko na siyang ginawa. So we are now moving towards the other franchises ng MWPH, Mutya, and MUP. Okay, Lemuel 23.5, again, the franchise titles that are definitely up for grabs could possibly show up are Elite, Global, and Universal Woman. Asia Pacific would be a good exchange between BPI and Mutya since they grab Intercon. Fan is asking, yung Cosmo World po ba may chance na makuha ng BBP? I hope they do. However, I think that Miss Cosmo World has a very particular kind of girl that they are looking for. And currently kasi, mas maganda siguro na we look at it, how it progresses muna bago tayo mag-assume na i-acquire siya ng Binibining Pilipinas, because knowing Binibining Pilipinas, they are very picky and they would want to know and learn more about the international franchises that they are taking in. They would like to have, to have an idea kung what is the pageant all about, kung ano yung history nito, and paano nila pinapalakad yung kanilang mga pageants. So, let's wait and see. For now, I think we should just table muna yung conversation with regards to Cosmo World, and focus muna on, I believe for me focus na lang their efforts on boosting the image of the Binibining Pilipinas as their main title. Gira Bago, when Miss World left, pageants under BBP stayed. But when MU left, other pageants started leaving. Binibining Pilipinas should have acted on this, but they are too traditional. They are very slow to implement changes. I agree din dyan. And it has been very slow to adapt to these changes, but having a brand like Binibining Pilipinas with traditions, naiintindihan ko din yung perspective nila na ayaw nilang magbago ng basta-basta. There is something about change just because you want to change, rather than change for progress. I think those are two different things. There is, there is consequences if they want to change in their something in their pageant. And nakikita naman natin that among the national pageants here that we have in the Philippines right now, Binibining Pilipinas has been consistent on the experience of the girls at the national level, and they make sure that they are well taken care of, that their Binibining Pilipinas experience is something to talk about, something that would, carry over to the next batch. Kasi from what I've seen so far with, the Binibining Pilipinas na title, is that kahit na nawalan sila ng mga franchises, like the Miss Universe and Miss World and other international competitions like Intercon Grand, iba pa din kasi yung the way that Binibining Pilipinas do their pageant. Isipin mo na lang, Binibining Pilipinas is the only national pageant that would fund 5 different glam shot photos for these girls. Meron silang t-shirt na glam shot, may swimsuit, may evening gown glam shot sila. Meron silang headshot, and then meron pa silang national costume na mga shoots na Binibining Pilipinas mismo ang gumagastos for them. Having those 5, iba pa yun yung mga glam shots and swimsuit pics that they do for their programs, and yung judges na binder. I think nabanggit ko na ito sa social media on a Instagram post that Binibining Pilipinas, yung mga pictures na nakikita nyo doon sa souvenir program is different from what is being published on social media. Yung sa social media last year, orange na Dia Ali yung kanilang swimsuit na ginamit. Pagdating doon sa program book, they have mga beaded na light blue na mga swimsuit for the souvenir program. And this is also different from the color block na, if I'm not mistaken, Pegaro swim na swimwear that they used for the judges na binder, wherein doon sa binder na yon lahat ng mga candidates 1 to 40, meron mga photos ng mga girls that is incorporated in that book. So isipin nyo na lang, Binibining Pilipinas ang gumagastos doon, and their annual budget for the 3-month na pageant is twice as much as the one that that they usually pay for the Miss Universe franchise before. So it goes to say that even if nawalan man sila ng mga tawag nito ng mga franchise, international franchises, they'd never scrimp on the experience of the Biniming Pilipinas girls. So there. Oriental Josa, would you think Miss Planet pwede sa BBP? I don't think so. I don't like the pageant because of the things that happened in Africa during their initial na competition earlier. Tignan muna natin if they are able to redeem itself in terms of yung kanilang image. Michael Florendo, why Miss World left Binibining Pilipinas? I actually have no idea, but I think it was a great move when Cory Carino took over the franchise, because at least under her leadership, nagkaroon tayo ng mga runner-up finish and mga top 5 na mga finishes, top 10 na finish, and then we were able to get our first Miss World crown. I think under Cory Carino's leadership, it was perfect yung relationship nila, kasi marunong mag-alaga si Cory Carino ng franchise relationship. So I think looking back, it was a good move for Miss World na magsarili sila under the leadership of Cory Carino. Drake, do you think ang rason bakit binitawan ni ALV ang Kiss ang Miss Supra is because he has to choose between MGI or Miss Supra? No. I think it is more prevalent yung mga rumors na yung Supra mismo ang kumalas. So and there are even other pageant pages na nagsabi nito na yung international org yung nag-decide na kumalas, because very last minute kasi yung pag-pull out and I will be talking about that a little bit later on. Lemon 23.5, Miss Aura International and Reina Del Cafe. Later, hindi ba Reina International Del Cafe? Is also quite possible to be acquired by BBCI since regarding castings on these pageants are relatively silent or quiet on their front. Halos lahat ng pageants nagsimula sa either have new candidates or started the 2023 search. Meanwhile, MWPH is relatively quiet on starting their 2023 seasons. Is Trouble in Paradise in reshuffle titles? That I don't know. Okay, speaking of Miss World, let's now talk about yung newest acquisition ng Miss World Philippines, where originally the plan is to have three national competitions for the franchises that they have. You have Supra as a separate standalone pageant. You have MGI Philippines as separate pageant altogether, and then you have Miss World Philippines. And then suddenly biglang nagkaroon ng shake-up na kumalas di umano ang Miss Supranational with the Miss World Philippines organization, and this is quite shocking. But at the same time, if you are going to look at yung timeline of things where nag-post ang MWP ang ALV Pageant Circle that they are opening the applications for the Miss Supra Philippines na competition, and then suddenly nawala yung post. They removed the post, tapos nagkaroon ng rumors that it was acquired by a separate entity, by a different entity, and then naglabas sila ng official statement na sila ang kumalas. It kinda is a bit blurry kung ano talaga yung nangyari, but it gave the impression na gulat din sila na biglang nawala sa kanila ang Miss Supranational na title. Whichever is the case, I think there is a problem with the way that Miss Supranational handles their franchises here in the Philippines, because there were even rumors back in 2021 that when Miss Universe Philippines left Binibining Pilipinas, there were rumors that were buzzing around na medyo may pagka-demanding itong pageant na ito, na gusto nila na sa Binibining na under Binibining Pilipinas sila yung main title, and that they are may mga requests sila, or may mga demands sila na mag-increase ng franchise fee, na kapag dumadalaw yung kanilang organization sa Pilipinas at pumupunta sila dito, they are always billeted, sa presidential suite ng mga hotels, that they are treated as VIPs, nahatid sundo sila and all. So a lot of these mga rumors na nakakarating sa mga insiders, hindi nakakaganda ng imahe nila sa mga sa mga taong nakakarinig. And if they are hopping yung franchise nila from one national pageant to another, it only goes to show that hindi sila ganun ka confident with their relationships with these business partners. And I think malaking kawalan sa kanila na nawala sila sa Binibining Pilipinas, because at least with Binibining Pilipinas, nandun pa rin yung prestige na you are part of the most prestigious na pageant dito sa Pilipinas. Because whether or not Binibining Pilipinas would have Miss Universe or Miss Supranational under their roster, I think that because of their history, embedded na sila sa history ng Pilipinas, ng Philippine pageantry, hindi mo maaalis yung prestige nila. So with that being said, I think also that there is there is a hindi naman fault, but rather there is a lacking on the Miss World Philippines in the way that they handle the Miss Supranational na franchise dito sa Pilipinas, instead of being able to really boost yung image and build yung image ng pageant dito sa Pilipinas. It looked like it went from a secondary title doon sa Binibining Pilipinas to another secondary title under Miss World Philippines na organization. And kung nangako ka, if rumors are true that they were promised to have a separate national pageant for their pageant, hindi maganda kasi yung nangyari na on their first year under despite Dindy Pajares being a strong candidate, she was essentially pretty much like appointed by her co-fellow candidates as Miss Supranational Philippines. Hindi nakakaganda ng image ng pageant. And this is something that you really need to you really need to fix, because hindi rin ganun ka-strong yung the way that ALV Pageant Circle boosted yung image ng supranational dito sa Pilipinas. If I'm not mistaken, the several editions, the last two editions ng Mr. Supranational na competition, appointed or casted lang yung mga pinapadala natin doon sa international na pageant. So medyo tayo doon, medyo parang hindi medyo in shaky grounds yung the way that it was handled in that manner, because I think what supranational wants, the main org wants, is that magkaroon sila ng sariling pangalan dito sa Pilipinas, magkaroon sila ng sariling identity at the local level, at ma-boost yung image nila dito sa Pilipinas. Because if you are going to, kung ihahanay mo yung supranational, parang most people would still refer to the Alpha 4, to the Big 4 pageants, and sabit lang ang supranational as ikalima. And I think that is something that they want to uh, to erase and be part of the biggest international pageants all over the world. But that's not the case. That's not the case that has been achieved yet. Up until this point, kumbaga parang saling ket-ket lang ang supranational pagdating sa pinakamalalaking international pageants. And I think um, that is something that they want na sana ma-achieve ng local organizer. So it does make sense that lumipat sila sa ibang organization, which is, from what I've heard, or rumors have it, that it's now under Miss Universe Philippines. My only thing that I didn't like with the way that this happened is that parang na blindside ang or rather, it looks like the Miss World Philippines organization, the ALV Pageant Circle organization, was blindsided by this decision of Miss Supranational. That it was suddenly like the rug was swept under them, and this is not a good thing na nangyari. And this is also something na I hope the Miss Supranational organization would learn to manage yung ganong klaseng galawan, because it makes them look like wala silang loyalty sa anumang national pageant na nag-handle ng kanilang franchise. So, and this is a very bad move, because the Philippines is a big pageant market in terms of the way that the Filipino fans consume content on pageantry, consume social media in pageantry. So sana mas may finesse yung the manner that they made changes in their local partners, because I remember several months back may mga meetings yung si Gerard and their creative director with ALV here in the Philippines. I'm sure that doon nag-uusap na sila kung paano i-increase yung visibility ng Supra dito sa Pilipinas by having a separate pageant for it. And then suddenly biglang naglaho ng bula, nawala yung franchise sa kanila. So sana medyo inayos nila yon, na hindi naman naging ganon ka-abrupt, na walang maayos na communication, kasi up until the last minute in January, I think ang ALV Pageant Circle has been actively promoting recruitment for applications for Miss Supranational Philippines. So sana lang mas may refinement in the way that that was handled. Now let's talk about Miss Universe Philippines, because from what we've heard, rumors that is circulating, Miss Charm International and Miss Supranational is with their system. Kaya nagkaroon sila ng announcement that they have 3 titles under them. And now, okay, I have to address this, kasi when they posted that announcement that they have 3 titles under them, it was during the Binibining Pilipinas na final callbacks. And I just find it very distasteful of them to take yung limelight away from Binibining Pilipinas, because ang Binibining Pilipinas parating umiilag sa schedules nila, knowing that for example, April ang nakarating sa BPCI was that April ang pageant ng Miss Universe Philippines, so they opted to do it in May. So parang out of respect na lang sana, dahil nanggaling din naman yung karamihan ng mga franchises nila sa Binibining Pilipinas, they could have just opted it a day or two or a day before yung posting nila yon, para hindi naman sila nagmukhang agaw eksena. And I think now it does make sense kung bakit sila nag-post ng ganun kasi looking at their pool of candidates versus the pool of candidates ng Binibining Pilipinas, I still find that those in Binibining Pilipinas are facially stronger as a group as compared to the ones in Miss Universe Philippines this year. However, I am very glad as well that yung mga repeaters and crossovers from Binibining Pilipinas and from other pageant systems nabibigyan ng spotlight sa Miss Universe Philippines dahil nga kokonti lang yung may international caliber at this point in time doon sa mga candidates nila and mas napagtutuunan ng pansin ngayon yung mga high profile na candidates na ito from Miss World Philippines, from Binibining Pilipinas. I think yung candidates nila they could have just made it into a top 20 na candidates or maybe a top 50 na candidates para salang-sala yung mga candidates na magkukumpete sa kanila because ang daming mga spots that I think they just put it in just to fill in yung 30 or 40 candidates that they want. I also find it very funny na kumopya din sila doon from a 35 top 35 ng Binibining Pilipinas naging 40, bigla silang naging top 30 tapos ngayon naging top 40. So it kind of like it looks like a very copycat na move. Kasi I think the better na how to say this, the better path that MUPH could have done is to follow the same trajectory as Miss South Africa, where they select only a top 15 or a top 12 candidates so that people can get to be more invested with these candidates and know their personal journey. Mas natututukan sila in terms of their what you call this, in terms of their journey throughout the pageant. And also sana this year magkaroon sana ng sariling glam team ang MUPH so that uniform yung mga swimsuit glam shots, yung mga headshots ng mga girls in their pageant so that way it will be reminiscent of the Trump era of the Miss Universe organization na it's reflected on MUPH. And then make some adjustments din on the way that they do their pageant to reflect yung international standards and what the international pageant is looking for. Last year, in 2021, December of 2021, I've already listed what are the things that needs to be focused on for Miss Universe Philippines for 2022. I've talked about highlighting achievements. I've talked about interview skills being very important, having life achievements that you can speak about, talk about in the international arena, having a social media that is reflective of your personality and your achievements. And the way that social media is able to become your online resume so that when judges, pageant owners would look at your social media, they can immediately get an idea of who you are as a person. Because it is foolish not to think that these people, whether they are from the organization or they are part of the judging panel, would not look into your social media and look at what you've been up to. In 2021, Meg Omisin of the Miss Universe organization, who is part of the marketing and advertising team, I believe, of the Miss Universe organization, has made public that they do check the social media of the of the candidates of the Miss Universe candidates. So I think that what Miss Universe Philippines can do now is to establish a relationship with these candidates, with their candidates, tell them to beef up their social media, be more communicative, to be more out there in terms of providing information to pageant fans and prospective judges and Miss Universe owners to take a look at what they can actually offer as Miss Universe Philippines and potential Miss Universe winners later on. I think marami ring kinakailangang i-adjust ang Miss Universe Philippines as an organization, because if we are going to look at their track record from the time that they managed Bia to Bea to Celeste, um, hindi maganda yung track record nila. They're not producing winners. They're not producing runners up. The highest that they have been able to achieve is a top 5 placement with Bea. And kinakailangan siguro they have to tweak the way that they train their ladies for the international competition and start working on the ladies and who they are as a person, rather than repackaging them and not think of how to appear authentic to who they are as a person. So I think yun yung area that they really need to do, especially with with the crop of candidates that they have currently. I have heard also rumors that they are depicting that this year, 2023, as the transitional year for Miss Universe Philippines. And I don't know ano yung ibig sabihin nung transitional year, whether it means that yung 2024 na edition has been bidded by other organizations, or this year is a change in the way that they select their winners, or a change in the way that they execute and manage their pageant, or the way that they are going to train their winner later on. We have to just wait and see kung ano ba yung mangyayari and ano yung potential na mangyayari later on. So I am hoping that with all of these rigudon, yung maisipan ng Miss Universe Philippines to really target yung mga areas that they work on and really work on those areas. So hindi it's not just enough that you can stage a national pageant that is that ticks the boxes, but you also need to make sure that the way that you manage and the way that you run your organization is at par with what the Miss Universe organization is looking for. With the way that Kun An, the new owner of the Miss Universe organization, is running the ship, is running the Miss Universe organization, we have to expect that there are more changes to come. And if you don't have, the business acumen to get, to flow with the times, you need to really hone in with what they are looking for, because they are now, because Kun An is looking at this, is managing this from the entrepreneur, from the business person na standpoint. So kung baga kinakailangan yung the manner that the local org will run this, run this ship for Miss Universe Philippines should be aligned with the way that Miss Universe organization does their what do you call this? Does their international na competition. Kasi ultimately kinakailangan aligned yung business model ng international at national organization, so that hindi magkakaroon ng misalignment na in the future. Para that way synchronize kung ano yung hinahanap ng international organization with what is being executed at the local level. Okay? Let's read some comments before we continue. Okay, where are we? G. Rabago, precisely, those are the consequences. Pageants leaving them, which is not. I think itong comment ni G. Rabago is with Binibining Pilipinas, no? Precisely, those are the consequences. Pageants leaving them, which is not good. May retentions issues sila. They are too slow to evaluate and recalibrate. They are reactive rather than preventive. Lemuel, 23.5 in terms of Mr. International Philippines. Sir Jason, personally, I wish the MIPH org would launch the press con sooner so fans can get more clarifications on the ownership kay Gulo. I will be talking about that a little bit later on. Kasi unahin na muna natin itong mga comments, okay? Travel junkie, silip lang me, work, love BBP, to be honest, but mas busy pa si Stacey Gabriel kaysa sa may mga international crowns. Dorothy B. Jones says, I've been wondering lately why the MUO allowed MUPH to award two other crowns. I'm led to think that more changes are about to happen next year in terms of franchises. I agree because so far Vietnam, Seychelles, no. Vietnam, Malaysia, Indonesia are the ones that have changes in terms of licensees and in terms of yung mga pageant na mga national directors na nag-step down. We have the national director of Mauritius and Seychelles stepping down from the MEO license. Okay? Dre, Sir Jason, may alam ka ba tungkol sa Miss Elite Philippines? Parang wala nang balita tungkol sa kanila. That's why I am thinking na baka nakuha or nakikipag-negotiate ang Binibining Pilipinas with, Miss Elite Philippines to get the franchise. Poy, your question, I actually was able to answer that earlier na. So backtrack ka na lang later sa replay. I think that's been discussed in the first or rather on the 30th minute na mark ng live stream natin. Okay, the worst night XX. Supranational overestimates its influence and reach. Miss Earth is league ahead of it, pero di mo naman nakitaan ang org na yun na mag-inarte when it comes to franchise requirements. I agree. That is why also, I think Miss Supranational need to take a good look on the mirror kasi they don't bring much value to the table. I don't think that they have nailed the relevance aspect of pageantry thus far because they are substitutable. I think that's the right word for Miss Supranational. That is why it cannot still be considered a part of the four major international pageants. At least with, let's say, Miss World, you have the Beauty with a Purpose ethos that makes them relevant in today's society because they are able to raise funds for charity. They are, very much concerned about their image as a charitable institution, as a traditional na pageant that is focused on charity work, on helping people. With Miss International, they have their own legacy and history that is very traditional in terms of the Japanese na way and culture. So hindi mo sila maaalisan nung prestige. And then you have Miss Earth, who I believe at this point in time is becoming one of the most relevant na mga international competitions because of its thrust on the environment. And especially with Miss Universe, slightly touching over the sustainability, aspect of pageantry. I think it only goes to show how relevant Miss Earth is. With Miss Supranational, aside from a glossy na pageant, I don't think that they are bringing anything that is new or uniquely theirs into the proverbial table. I think that is the area that they really need to work with because ang pageant nila, aside from the glam the glamorous stage and the very, glossy na production. After the pageant, their winner is not very visible. Kumbaga parang wala kang nakikitang high profile na ginagawa in terms of the pageants of advocacy, who at this point in time is still unclear kung ano yung kanilang ina-advocate for, what makes them relevant. Kasi ano naman importante that the organization knows itself and defines itself based on, their core values, and their sorry, their core values should reflect, should be reflective with the kind of social issues that they handle or they tackle. So Miss Supranational, masyadong mataas. Tama yung sinabi mo, the worst night double X, na medyo mataas ang tingin nila sa sarili nila without actually any proving anything themselves. Kumbaga parang hanggang doon lang ang kaya nilang patunayan. Other than that, what else can they offer? And I think that is a question na kinakailangan nilang harapin at kinakailangan nilang tignan and i-evaluate, because I don't think that they're all that. Dorothy V. Jones, the mindset and behavior of the newer international pageants can be quite crass, and they expect to be called alpha pageants without even earning the years and the network. Yun na nga, tama naman yung observations ninyo na medyo ang taas kaagad ng tingin nila sa sarili nila, or that they're expecting too much from the local organizations. And hindi lang Supra yung may problema nito, even MGI may problemang ganito. And alam nyo naman that how crass the owner is when it comes to the way that he behaves on social media. So alam mo yun, parang very problematic yung the way the owners behave on social media and how the pageant is being run, because ultimately hindi mo maihihiwalay yung owner with the organization, much like you cannot think of Miss Universe without thinking of the way that Kun An is running the organization. And there are polarized thoughts on the way that she runs the organization. There are those that think that she's doing a good job. There are those who are thinking that she's making changes too fast. So hindi mo maaalis yung pagkadikit ng owner with the organization. Much on the same vein like Nawat is how very much associated with MGI. Parang nang dahil doon sa mga shenanigans ng owner, nawawalan ng class yung pageant kahit na may potential. Of gloss, yes, nandoon tayo na very glossy HD yung kanyang pageant, but kumbaga sa sustansya, bukod sa nakikita mong gloss ng pageant, ano yung sustansya na meron yung competition? And they have not yet, made relevance enough to be at the same level as these older na international pageants who have been in existence for at least 20 years. Okay, Mitsuko Ogata, hindi na ako na-excite sa pageant ng MUPH, to be honest. I mean, they can just appoint their favorites. Yes. The worst night double X also comments, I think MUPH felt the need to have more than 30 candidates because they want to show and their commercial viability and reach. Yun nga lang, it didn't work out as planned because their trust rating is low. Drake is saying, Sir Jason, do you think saan pupunta ang Miss Universe JKN era? Do they focus more on achievements, advocacy, or marketability ng girls na gusto nila panalunin? I think it will still be a reflective of what they are looking for during the Endeavor era in terms of a winner. But mas intense lang din siguro yung requirement, not only on the girl but on the organization, the local organizations themselves. I think ito yung tamang oras where the national organizations would look at their business models, would look at their finances, would look at how they run things, and really professionalize the way that the pageant industry in their respective countries are being run. Unfortunately, some countries do not have the same, machinery and the same structure as we have here in the Philippines, where we are pageant-raised na country that aside from resources, whether it's trainers, designers, whether it's the creatives, whether it's the camps, we have the infrastructure here in the Philippines, unlike, let's say, countries in Europe na sometimes pahirapan kumuha ng sponsors, sometimes pahirapan mag-mount ng pageant because of financial issues. So I think ultimately, we really need to drill down to these national organizations to be really reflective of the kind of business entity that the Miss Universe is looking for their local na partners. Hindi lahat ng mga pageant organizations have the same clout that we have here in the Philippines. So maybe it's about time that they start, aligning themselves with other business partners that would help them professionalize the way their pageants are held in their respective countries. 1148 Carl is saying, Sir Jason, do you think okay lang ng JKN at Kun-an na that NUPH will crown their Supra and Charm on their pageant? Diba IMG discourages their national pageants to do this? I think pwedeng makalusot ang Miss Universe Philippines on that account by crowning their Supra and their Charm title holders post Miss Universe crowning. I think pwede nilang gawin na they will announce their main winners in their live telecast, and then they will just announce yung mga runners up and yung mga subtitles nila, and then later on announce that the Miss Universe Philippines charity is going to be sent to Miss International, Miss Supranational, and then their Miss Universe Philippines Tourism, for example, is the one to be sent in Miss Charm International. So, yun. I think may lusot sila if ever na ni-require talaga sila ng Miss Universe na organization to only crown Miss Universe during their finals. There. Love for chill movies. Kahit naman makapag-stage ng palpak o okay ang MUPH at makapagpadala ng caliber rep sa top 5 caliber, kahit siguro makasungkit pa ng one Miss U crown, may nasasabi pa rin kayo sa org and the PH rep. Fan. Sino po kaya fan is asking, sino po kaya major sponsor ng BBP this year? Last year was Shane. I have no idea yet because up until this point, from what I know is that the usual Pizza Hut, Dairy Queen, etc. Mga companies under the Araneta group of companies are going to be sponsoring the pageant. The other partnerships with other brands, international, local or international na mga brands here in the Philippines, I still have heard nothing about them yet. But if magkakaroon sila ng event later this month or later towards March, baka doon natin makikilala kung sino yung mga magiging sponsors and partners nila, because there are cases wherein 1 month or even 2 weeks, 3 weeks before their finals, before their coronation, saka may mga dumadagdag na ng mga sponsors. And I think I've seen that in 2021 na may mga 3 weeks na lang or 2 weeks na lang yung pageant, may mga dumadagdag. Nasaan na ba tayo? I think ito, si John C. Hi Sir Jason, happy to see you. I'm waiting lang kung saan dadalhin ni Auntie Ann ang... Okay, nawala. Wait lang. Okay, ulitin natin. Sabi ni John C. Hi Sir Jason, happy to see you. I'm waiting lang kung saan dadalhin ni Auntie Annie yung ang Miss Universe. Sana worth it lahat ng changes, lalo na yung mga nakakuha ng new franchise. Hope mapanindigan. I hope so too, because ultimately din naman, what we want is, consistency in terms of the organization, the way that the organization is handling the pageant. I am hoping that whatever these changes na sa tingin natin medyo drastic and abrupt and medyo shaken tayong lahat, would make sense with not only financial results but commercial results as well, in terms of advertising, in terms of revenue that they are able to garner from the winner, from the pageant itself, from the hosting, ganyan. Because I like the way that ngayon pa lang, alam natin na by December, the Miss Universe is going to be held in El Salvador. And then in 2024, talks are abound that the Miss Universe 2024 edition is going to be held in Thailand and possibly even, even Vietnam. And I think all of these, talks gets us excited because for the longest time, ilang buwan na lang, saka lang natin malalaman yung host na country for these international competitions, and sometimes hindi na nakakaano yun, hindi na nakaka tawag ito, hindi na tayo nakakatipid in terms of planning yung finances natin if we are going to cover those pageants, because from my experience, yung mga last minute na tipong 2 months na lang or 3 months na lang before maganap yung Miss Universe, saka lang na abisuhan yung mga tao kung saan yung finals na venue. Medyo mahal siya in terms of booking tickets, whether it's in the US or in other countries. Parang ang hirap maghanap ng hotels na malapit sometimes, ang hirap maghanap ng mga connecting flights kung medyo multiple flights ang kinakailangan to arrive to that destination. So medyo medyo pahirapan siya, especially now na El Salvador yung tawag ito yung venue for this year. So if you are a Filipino, you might want to book a flight muna to the US, and then from the US saka ka connecting flight sa El Salvador. And sometimes even yung direct flight to the US, meron pang layover kung minsan sa Korea before it goes to the US, and kukuha ka ng third flight mo going to San Salvador in El Salvador. So let's wait and see how this is going to pan out long term for the organization, because I think naninibago tayo dahil these are very business na decisions. Yung the way that the organization is moving about is very financially and business driven. Ano ba yan? Hindi ko nababasahin ito yung ibang comments kasi medyo nag-aaway na kayo sa comment section. Dorothy V. Jones, do you think Binibini will remain in good hands in the post Madam SMA era? I think so, because I am thinking that because it's an institution, it's a long-established institution, whoever is going to run the Araneta group of companies would be oriented in the way that the pageant is run. Kasi tingin ko, magkakaroon ng handover yan. Unlike, for example, mga individual owners lang ang may stake with the organization. For example, let's say Miss Universe Philippines. If we are going to look at it at the perspective of succession, after, let's say, sabihin natin, Empire have had the organization for, sabihin natin, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. Sino ngayon yung nakikita natin na magti-take over from the pamunuan ng empire. Because if there is not like a succession, or there is not a clear lines of succession, mahihirapan yung organization to retain that for, for the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years. Unlike ang Binibining Pilipinas, because it is a conglomerate of different companies. The Araneta family have, other companies, have other management na mga tao who can possibly manage the pageant itself. Same thing if it case that the organization who gets the Miss Universe franchise is, let's say, GMA 7. Because GMA 7 is owned by, several, because it's owned by a single entity, and for sure may mga business arms yan na gumagalaw under that company. I'm sure may plan of succession yan if ever na the main owner or the main owners would pass away. So ibig sabihin, siguro mas madaling tignan yung perspective na ito years down the line of how either GMA or MUPH, or kung babalik man siya ng Binibining Pilipinas, is going to manage the entire pageant down the line. Sabi ni Fan, I think BBP will live on after SMA steps down because it's a tradition and legacy not just of SMA but the whole Araneta family. So the successors will honor and keep that. Don Guido Fredo de Vera, maganda iyong suggestion na Binibining Pilipinas, Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao. Same with Miss Philippines Earth, Air, Fire, and Water. And hopefully, Miss Philippines Earth should acquire environment-focused pageants like Eco, Planet, Nature International. Sayang din yung mga nasa elemental court. Ang problema kasi dyan, Don Guido, is if NPE acquires other franchises like Miss Planet, Miss Eco, Miss Nature or Miss Environment International, I just don't want that yung mga new franchises na to mamimirata ng mga national directors from Miss Earth, like what MGI did nung hinawakan niya for a year yung franchise ng ME. Medyo kasi problematic yung mga franchises na to, because there were rumors as well that Miss Eco, yung first year nila, medyo na blindside yung organization kasi akala nila in-invite lang yung Miss Earth winner at that time to to an event in Egypt, tapos yun pala nagkaroon na lang bigla ng Miss Eco na pageant habang nandun yung Miss Earth winner. So parang medyo medyo shady yung the way it started. And those are rumors back then. So hindi natin alam kung yung mga other mga planet, mga environment na focus na mga pageants na to, ganun din yung gagawin sa Miss Earth later on. So it's better that we evaluate the way these pageant does their competition, because it's so difficult na mag-add ang Miss Philippines Earth ng additional franchises and only to be criticized na performative lang yung advocacy ng mga international franchises na ito. That hanggang drawing lang yung advocacy nila, and they don't really do anything with regards to their advocacy with regarding to environmental awareness, much like the same thing that Miss Earth does. So we need to be careful about that, kasi there are a lot of pageants na very performative yung kanilang advocacy, that it's all lip service and nothing more. So mahirap yung ganung sistema. Um, Sir Jason, sabi ni Lemuel 23:5, have you seen on social media? Looks like Miss Universe is really broadening their reach. As of now, we finally have reps from Palau, Papua New Guinea, Timor-Leste, and Brunei, and possibly more. If I'm not mistaken, El Salvador also requires, aside from they require a special visa before entering the country, and that's the problem. Okay, unahin na muna natin yung new territories. I think that's good to hear na may mga bagong territories na nagsisusulputan for Miss Universe. This is good because merong representative from these new countries, but I do hope that in terms of longevity, in terms of consistency in sending and fielding candidates, masustain nila yon. Hindi yung nandito ngayon, tapos kinabukasan, wala. Sa susunod na taon, meron. Tapos after that, wala for long periods of time. So, that is something that I hope will happen doon sa mga bagong territories. Now, with regards naman doon sa special visa going to El Salvador, the problem with that is that you have to acquire visa from the US perhaps, because I don't think that the Philippines have an embassy in El Salvador. So medyo tricky siya. I hope that whoever is going to be sent there, or whoever is going to cover na Filipino, Filipino media in El Salvador is able to plan ahead. Dahil mahirap yung ganito na wala kang embassy dun sa pupuntahan mo. Dahil kung magkaroon ng aberya, kanino ka tatakbo? So, yun yung isa sa mga worry ko. Lutong Pinoy at iba pa, ganda ng ganitong mga diskurso na napaghimay-himay talaga ang mga perspective ng mga happenings sa pageant industry. Thank you again, Lutong Pinoy at iba pa, because as I've said, I want to make sure to give you content that is, well thought of and well planned. And that is something that I will be committing myself to provide for you guys. Drake, with all this franchise rotation, I hope they don't burn bridges kasi maliit lang ang pageant world. Okay, I agree with that, Drake, because if I'm going to wrap everything that we've discussed, ultimately, I think that pageant organizations, whether it's local or international, should be able to live and end their relationships in a professional manner. Importante din kasi na maintindihan nating lahat that in pageantry, there are no permanent friends. There are only permanent interests. And that goes not only in local pageantry but international pageantry as well. Kasi ultimately, kapag nag-end na yung relationship ng one organization with another, there should be a way that they are able to cut ties amicably so that if in case na yung bagong pupuntahan ng organization, ng international organization does not work, meron silang options at hindi yung they keep on burning bridges and being left with nothing. Ayaw naman din natin na kada taon nagbabago-bago yung mga franchises ng mga local pageants natin dito, because it will not build consistency long term kapag magkakaiba yung owners ng, let's say, Miss Universe Philippines this year and next year and the year after that, because you will not build a strong foundation for the brand and for the local organization, to propagate itself long term. Kung taon-taon nagbabago yung mga franchise partners, nagkakaroon kasi ng inconsistent with the way that they feel, their girls to these international competitions, at bumababa yung quality, because if every year nagbabago yung ownership at the local level, syempre yung local organization tinitimpla kung ano yung magwo-work dun sa international competition, and it probably will take years before they are able to establish that kind of confidence doon sa pinapadala nila. And I think this is something that the local organizations should also, be taking a look at. Na sana hindi sila magpadalos-dalos na kuha na lang kuha ng mga international na mga franchises before franchise titles before thinking of what they can offer long term. I think it's important that nowadays, us pageant fans, maging ano rin tayo, mas maging sensitive din tayo doon sa mga changes na ito because hindi lahat ng pagkakataon mananalo tayo dahil of course if a new organization is taking over the local franchise, mas malamang na hindi nila ipapanalo yung last na girl na ipapadala under the old organization. And they would probably even make the winner of the new organization win on the first try. Siyempre, gugustuhin nila na mag-build muna sila ng foundation with them. So probably a runner-up finish or a podium finish would be possible but not necessarily long-term kokoranahan tayo. And we've seen that with MGI. Na madalas tayong binibigyan ng mga runner-up finish but they don't actually give us the main crown despite the Philippines sending them the strongest na possible girl for that title. And naiintindihan ko din yung perspective na yun because it keeps us hanging on na kokorona tayo the next year. So I think yun yung learning that we have from MGI na sana maintindihan ng mga fans ng local organizations na on their first year they would probably not give you the main title. That is why, kung titignan natin yung under Cory Carino, she is a very special case because on their first year, ni runner-up muna tayo in 2011. In 2012, nilagay tayo sa top 10. And then in 2013, saka tayo pumarona. And then, that is very rare in terms of yung mga cases na nangyayari. So, it's most likely that's going to be like podium finishes first before they give us the main title. So ultimately, I think with regards to this pageant na rotation, wag na tayong magtaka, wag na tayong ma-shock that it's happening, that this is something that is going to be a regular thing in pageant because this is something that international pageant owners will have to do in order for them to be afloat business-wise. So year in year out, aasahan natin na magkakaroon ng rotation, magkakaroon ng pagbabago sa kung whoever owns the franchise because if the pageant owner, the international pageant owner is very much focused on fiscal and financial viability of the pageant, she or he would want to make sure that the local organization is nababago after several years para umangat yung kanilang market value. So, wag na tayong magtaka in the coming years that we will be having changes in pageant ownership because it is going to happen because nowadays pageants are a big business and kinakailangan ng international organization na maging financially viable. Okay, so I'll be just reading some final comments here from Dorothy B. Jones. She says, I appreciate Kun-An putting structure, discipline, and consistency in the business of MUO, even ensuring that advocacy work post-MUO makes its mission a part of every fan's dream. Don Guido, Fredo de Vera, hindi nyo po ata na-discuss ang intercon with Mutya or did I miss anything? I think yes, hindi na napahaging lang natin na nabanggit that intercon has now moved back to Mutya ng Pilipinas, but I think ang punto doon is that with the things that I've heard with regards to intercontinental, I think it's a good thing na nawala na lang siya sa Binibining Pilipinas. And maybe in the next several days, magpapatsaa ako on Instagram on ano ba yung mga narinig kong hindi ka aya-ayang nangyari with that pageant, especially yung mga naranasan natin in the years that BPCI handled Intercon. What are the things na medyo hindi professional pakinggan na ginawa nung international na pageant. These are rumors though, but it's up to you kung gusto niyo maniwala o hindi. I have heard mga first-hand accounts from people who were there in the pageant na hindi naging maganda yung trato sa ating mga girls, hindi rin naging maganda yung experience ng mga ibang girls na sumabak doon sa competition na to. And I don't think nakawalan siya ng Binibining Pilipinas, much like hindi kawalan sa Binibining Pilipinas na mawala ang MGI. I think kung meron man na merong franchise na tingin kong kawalan sa Binibining Pilipinas, it's more likely the Miss Universe and the supranational na franchise. I think those are the two na I think nagkaroon ng impact sa Binibining Pilipinas in terms of the roster of of titles that they have. But when it comes to Intercon, I don't think malaking kawalan siya. Ang maganda dito is that under Binibining Pilipinas, we had 2 winners and several runners up. So I think happy na tayo doon because from the longest time that Intercontinental was under Mutya, never tayong kumorona sa Intercon under Mutya ng Pilipinas during the first time, the first period that Mutya handled the franchise. Now that it's back with Mutya, we're hoping na sana maalagaan ng Intercon ang relationship nila with Mutya, and sana magtagal na sila doon at hindi na sila maging katulad ng Supra na paikot-ikot na lang kung sinong nagka-handle. Ayan. Thank you very much for everyone who joined our live stream today. I think hindi na ako nagkaroon ng oras para i-discuss yung Mr. International Philippines na franchise and how it's been messy. I think I'm just gonna leave my thoughts on social media or perhaps in a blog post later on with regards to the Mr. International na franchise, yung mga nag-aaway na mga factions. From the last thing that I've heard, there is a third person who is saying na he has claim to the international na Mr. International na ownership ng title. So this is going to be messy. Until I get more information on that, then I think it's better na I table na lang muna that discussion. So for now, thank you very much for joining me in this live stream. Before we end, please leave a thumbs up, a like on this video, and I hope to see you sa next natin na episode. Thank you very much and have a great evening and a good day wherever you are in the world. Bye everyone and see you next week.